Good evening. We're so glad to have you with us on the show, and I have an outstanding show for you this evening. I have, for the first two sessions, I have Susan Sorrells, and for the second, I have Susan Moore. So we have two Susans, but a lot of information. So be sure to have the pencil and paper and anything you need to write down all of this information, because we're going to have a lot coming to you. Now, first thing I want to do is welcome Susan to the show. Susan, welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
I am so glad to have you back with us, because I know you've done this before. You've been on TV, you've been on radio, because, as I call you, the mayor of Shoshone. Now, for those of you who don't know where Shoshone, California is, that's right outside of Pahrump. For those of you in Clark County that maybe have not been to Shoshone, for you, this show is going to be fantastic, because we're going to be telling you a lot of things about Shoshone that you may or may not know, may or may not have heard about, and you want to see it. You don't want to miss this. This is fantastic. So, Susan, Shoshone, California, we're talking about Nevada, and so what is that connection between Nevada, Pahrump, and Shoshone?
Well, we always are skeptical about state lines.
Okay, I like that.
Because communities, people, our critters, our animals, they don't necessarily recognize state lines.
Okay.
And Shoshone was founded in 1910 on the Tonopah and Tidewater Railroad.
Okay.
Because of the mining boom that was in Death Valley, but also in Nevada. So we have a very strong history together.
Oh, excellent.
We often say that despite the state line, we have the attitude of Nevadans, independence, dedication to our community. We have a lot in common with Beatty and Pahrump and many of the Nevadan towns that were mining towns. Pahrump was more agriculture, but Johnny was, of course, a gold mining district. So,
and I'll bet most of the people listening to the program have no idea about Johnny and some of the other places that you're going to be talking about. So this is like a history lesson as well as talk about an area. One of the things Susan mentioned to me was the people that she knew from Pahrump, because they kind of grew up together. Something that we hadn't talked about is the fact that the high school for Pahrump was in Shoshone. And that's where all the kids got to know each other. And now even though there's a state line, they ignore that. They're still friends. I like that.
Very, 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 our two towns are very intertwined. And of course, most of you that have been in Pahrump for a long time and possibly grew up in Pahrump, you're very much aware of Tecopa and China Ranch. Yes. And the entire Tecopa, Shoshone, Amargosa community. When I was a little girl, Shoshone was a rip-roaring mining town that had about 800, 900, 1,000 residents, all connected to mining. If you can imagine, there was a gas station in Tecopa, at Delight's Hot Springs, at Death Valley Junction. There were like 3 RV, or actually trailer parks in Tecopa, filled with mining families. Shoshone had a trailer park, State Line had a trailer park. So Shoshone and Tecopa were booming, and Pahrump was a sleepy little agricultural community with very few people and very few children. So the children from the big ranches were bused to Shoshone. So we have a lot of commonality over many, many years, and that rapport and that feeling of community still exists today, between the two areas, although, of course, things have reversed themselves a little.
Yes, they have.
Shoshone-
Pahrump is growing, and yeah.
Shoshone's a little town of 30 people.
But a lot of tourists.
A lot of tourists, yes. And Tecopa, with the hot springs, when the snowbirds come in, they probably have 150 people.
Okay.
But they're still quite small compared to Pahrump's 50,000 people.
Yes, yes, and growing.
And growing, yeah. But in Shoshone, you probably, our audience probably knows us because we have a lotto machine. So
That's where you go to buy your lottery cards.
yeah,
Okay.
and then a lot of people come from Pahrump to buy lotto, but then they discovered the Crowbar Cafe and Saloon.
Yes.
And in the last maybe 7 or 8 years, Shoshone's really taken a new direction into becoming an eco-village. So we have about 15 miles of hiking trails and birding trails, and it just makes me feel so good to see not only our many visitors, but people I know in Pahrump that come to Shoshone every Sunday just to go birding on our trails.
Okay.
So
When you say eco-village, that's what you're talking about.
yeah, when mining cratered in like 1982, we went from about 800 to 1,000 mining jobs to like 4.
Oh, wow. That's a big drop.
I know. In the Crowbar, we used to have a poker game and a pool
gee.
table, and it was just wild times on Saturday and Sunday nights when the miners came in. It was very, very exciting and fun, and we had bands, and it was just great. And then in Tecopa, they had the Snake Pit, which was a mining bar like Shoshone.
Okay.
So there
I thought you meant a real snake pit.
well, that's what it was called.
Okay.
And it was really, really, again, a poker table, a pool table. So between the Crowbar and the Snake Pit, there were wild times on weekends
Wow.
in Shoshone and Tecopa. And then all of that went away. And then we, as a community, transitioned to tourism. But then our resources are really fragile. The area is incredibly beautiful. And so about maybe 15, 20 years ago, we sort of shifted, and we in Shoshone really shifted over to ecotourism and really concentrating on what is called quiet tourism. We have, as I said, the hiking trails. A lot of people from Pahrump come over to have a nice hike.
Absolutely.
China Ranch is another really popular destination for hiking, where there's waterfalls and beautiful, beautiful scenery. But we also, we now in Shoshone have a tremendous amount of cycling groups, dual sport groups that come through, photography groups. We have one group that's coming in this week it's from New York.
Oh.
And it's high-end nude photography. So
Nude photography?
they tell me it's art.
Okay.
I had to look up their credentials to make sure that was true. And yes, it's very, very high-end art from New York. We're a center for a base camp for filming. A lot of filming takes place at Dumont Dunes. So they stay in Shoshone because of the Crowbar and the station, and so it's a lot is happening. But we try to work with groups that really interpret the beautiful surroundings instead of be destructive to them.
Okay.
And then in addition, in Shoshone, we have shifted to landscaping that is endemics, like pollinating plants and trees that pull in birds. We have the pupfish that was declared extinct, and then it was sort of rediscovered when we started cleaning up our spring area. So we have, up by the pool, we have just beautiful series of ponds and connected by a spring brook that is the home of the Shoshone pupfish, which is found nowhere else in the world. So it's really becoming a destination for those that want to get back to nature.
You know, when you mention that, and we have all of our viewers in Clark County and Nye County and all over the place, for those of you who have not been to Shoshone or been to Pahrump or been to other parts of Clark County, need to get out there and see exactly what they have. Now, Susan just mentioned the puffish, and the fact that in Shoshone is the only place on this planet that you can see them. So that's something you probably want to put down for your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, to say, I saw the puffish that they thought were extinct, and now they're back, and they're in Shoshone.
And I'm smiling because the pupfish are very, very interesting little creatures. I know there are those that say, well, why spend so much time on this small little creature when there's so many other things to do? But we feel, and I feel very strongly, that these little creatures are the canary in the coal mine, because we are all connected.
Look, we're going to come back and join us in the next session. We'll have so much more for you. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. Before we went to break, we were talking about the puffish in Shoshone, and Susan was explaining exactly what goes on with that. Remember, the puffish were extinct, they thought, and they found them in Shoshone, and it's the only place on the planet that you can find them. But there's so much more about Shoshone, so much more about the ecosystem, so much more about everything that goes on in Shoshone. But Susan had more to talk about with the puffish.
Yes, I'm smiling and sort of chuckling because, as I said in the last segment, that folks say, oh, it's just a little creature, it's not important, it's not very interesting, like the lions and the tigers and the bigger megafauna are. But they're very interesting, and one of the most interesting things about the pupfish is that when they're mating, the male turns a very, very bright, intense turquoise blue.
Wow.
So they're really fun to watch. And then in addition, they're called pupfish because they're pugnacious. They're like little puppies. And so they swirl around and they have their own territory, and especially when they're mating, they're pugnacious. And so they're actually very entertaining to watch.
Watch mating, and this is what you heard on this show. Watch the fish while they're mating. Oh, yeah. Man, okay.
Especially these little 1.5-inch pupfish.
I think when you talk about some of the hiking trails and some of the other things that Shoshone offers, there's some. I'm sure there's some that they're curious. Now you have a website, and they can see a whole lot more than what we're talking about right now. What's the website that they can go to see exactly what it is we're talking about?
Our website is shoshonevillage.com. There's photos of the surrounding area and the trails, but also we have a wonderful little inn there. There's only 20 rooms, but they're very, very nice, and they're booked most of the year. So I think it's a testimony that people want to get back to nature. At night, especially in the summer, the night sky is a bowl of stars. We do have a lot of astronomers that come out. We're looking at possibly having star parties. There's a fellow in Pahrump that does YouTube star parties who's just unbelievably talented and knowledgeable. So we also have an RV park that a lot of folks like to come to. We have a warm spring pool that was built in 1924.
Wow.
Just
Okay.
as Tecopa has the hot springs. We're remodeling that this summer. But I wanted to say that Shoshone we have people now that are staying for 3 and 4 and 5 days. It used to be a stopover, but Shoshone also is very integrated with Tecopa and China Ranch and Tecopa Hot Springs, and those communities have so much to offer. Believe it or not, we're becoming a foodie destination with the Crowbar, Steaks and Beer, the Kit Fox Cafe. At the Kit Fox, they bake every single bit of their breads and bakery goods at the Kit Fox. We have the Death Valley Brewery that makes literally world-class beer. We have it at the Crowbar. It's called Amagosa Sunset, which they are beautiful. The beer will make you feel really good.
I'm sure of that.
And then the other one is Snakebite. So the whole area is just really, it's teeming with visitors, and you never know who you're going to meet in the Crowbar or at the brewery. Steaks and Beer, you must get reservations because it's probably the best steakhouse in all Las Vegas, Pahrump, Shoshone, Tecopa. So it's a fun little jaunt over the hill.
You know, the first time, I went over to Shoshone and we saw the gas station, we saw the cafe, and we were there to see it, I guess to look at lottery tickets, not to buy at that time because we weren't into anything like that. But I looked across the street and I'm thinking, this is just a small place and why would anybody want to come here? Then my wife Faye and I went over after meeting Susan and she gave us a tour. My eyes that big because this is amazing. All the things I just didn't know. And I'm sure there's so many of you watching the show tonight that didn't have a clue about everything that's available in Shoshone. Now, Susan is talking about the surrounding areas and the other places, but Shoshone itself will take a lot of your time just learning what's there because there's so much there.
Yes, I grew up there. I'm fourth generation in Shoshone and grew up with many of the as I said earlier, the ranching families in Pahrump. And I went away to Europe and many other places for about 20 years. And so when I came home because of my love for the desert, my family, and the community. And I wasn't really much of a business person, but my love for the history and the community really drove our decisions. So my husband and I made the choice to restore all of the old buildings instead of tearing them down. Mm-hmm. I think many of you, actually, I think my husband, Robbie Haynes, is better well known in Pahrump than I am. But it really is, it's vibrant. We have a university field camp there for students. So we have about 25 students in town, but it's also a step back in time. And another historical district, the Dublin Hills, that is where we call them the Dublin Dudes. They lived in caves. So we, instead of tearing those down or closing them, we're restoring them. hopefully we do have tours just for groups. There were some insurance issues for leaving them open and also destruction. But so it's really a nice day just to come to town and see their history, go to the Shoshone Museum, which I have friends that said they were going to stop in and they end up staying an hour or two. So it's just, it's really a fun little adventure over the hill.
It is, and I encourage everybody just to learn. As Susan says, take a step back in time and see everything that's available that we did not know was available. And once you're there, you're going to tell your friends, you're going to invite others to come and see more about what Shoshone has to offer.
Well, get on our website. All of these different aspects of Shoshone are on our website, and as Dr. Waters mentioned, if you drive through, you will say to your friends, if you drive through and blink, you missed it. But there's just so much else there, and as my husband and I have been together for 35 years, and it's our home. We love it. We love our communities, but we really have tried hard to honor the land. And actually, when we made the shift to ecotourism, we have never, ever been as economically successful. And I know that people are anxious to get back to nature. And especially young millennial families in Vegas, they want their children to see the pupfish and the birds and the night skies and swim in a warm spring pool that doesn't have chlorine in it. And so go to the museum and learn about the mining history. So come on over and visit.
And until you do, go to the website. Go to the website, look at everything on the website, and then try and make a plan as to, okay, when I get to Shoshone, I want to see this, 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 and make a plan. As Susan said, you'll probably come over and say, well, I'll just spend a few minutes. But once you're there and you get engrossed, you may want to book a room because you may want to stay overnight because, look, I want to see more of this. And bring the family. I mean, make it an outing. When you think about Shoshone, think about enjoying what nature has to offer. Since I've met Susan and had a chance for her to show me and my wife Faye Shoshone, it's a fantastic place for us to go and visit. We enjoy it. We enjoy the people. We just enjoy everything about it, and that's why we wanted to tell you about it tonight.
Well, one thing about Shoshone, you never know what's going to happen next. So it's quite entertaining and it's beautiful. And Tom, I don't know if I have time, but I did want to say that we're very much about integrating nature and community. And we feel strongly, even though we have very, very sensitive areas like the spring area, that if people aren't a part of the solution in protecting this planet Earth, then we're really in trouble. So this spring area with the spring books and the pupfish and the birds, I think there's like 5 endangered species in this area. We encourage people to come over with their family and take a lunch. We've had weddings there, we've had art classes. It's free. And it's really turned into where the community is protecting this really, really special, very fragile area instead of a mentality of fencing people off because the nature is too fragile. We want to encourage people and interpret the land so that people can become a part of the solution.
And we're out of time, and that's too bad. But look, go to the website, find out more about Shoshone, and go and visit. And thank you, Susan, for being here.
And thank you for inviting me here, Tom.
Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. And this session, we're going to be talking about, well, we're going to be talking to Susan Moore. And I'll tell you more about Susan Moore in just a minute, but she's going to be talking about Federation of the Blind. And there's a lot that you need to know when we talk about that. But first of all, I want to say, Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. And I also want everyone to know that Susan is a Navy veteran. We always like to introduce our veterans and talk about their service to our great nation. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for yours.
And with that, we're going to get right into Federation of the Blind. Susan, tell us why Federation of the Blind, why you're involved in it, and what's going on.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, when I initially went blind, I only have one eye that I see out of, and I wondered whether or not I was really blind. So when I looked and found this organization, I found out they have their own definition, and I'm going to read it to you because I'm not good at memorizing anymore. The NFB says that there are several ways to define blindness. Many people regard blindness as the inability to see at all, or at least to discern light from darkness. The National Federation of the Blind takes a much broader view. We encourage people to consider themselves as blind if their sight is bad enough, even with corrective lenses, that they must use alternative methods to engage in any activity that people with normal vision would do using their eyes. I think that's extremely important you understand that, because you might be sitting back there listening to this saying, gee, maybe I'm blind. Maybe I have a problem. I can't see out of one eye. And I thought because I could see in the other eye that, you know, I'm okay. Well, but you stumble into things that you need to know that that is considered blindness, and you need to get some help if you need it. In our organization, the National Federation of the Blind, they have a huge website, and if you go to nfb.org, they put everything under tabs, so you kind of get lost in it. You say, oh well, what is this about, what is that about? But today I'm going to tell you about it, because gosh, there's a lot to understand.
Okay.
Our community tab is the first one. There are people who are blind, people losing vision, parents of blind children, blind parents, seniors plus, students K through 12, educators, and employers. There's a lot of blind people out there. Mm-hmm. And in that community tab, you can go in there and find out more information. In fact, the president of our organization is blind, his wife is blind, and they have 2 of their 3 children that are blind.
Wow.
So they have the experience, and they understand those things that we may deal with. There's another one called Get Involved, and it says join us, and I mean, you could donate to the cause if you want to. They have a New Orleans National Convention, July 8th through the 13th, and there they do a lot of different things. More information about that, but there's 50,000 members in the organization. Now, they go into programs and services, and this is where I'm going to concentrate most, because this has got a lot of stuff.
Okay.
The first one is that they talk about is the independent market. They have a market where they sell things for blind or severely visually impaired people, and the price is a little high, but not, you know, you could get it cheaper maybe at Amazon, but you could at least look at it and see whether or not it's what you want. We also have a huge advocacy program in education, employment, transportation, voting and civil rights, and these are all directed by resolutions that they do at the convention. One of the big things that I like about it is the NFB Newsline. It's free audio and braille service for the blind. For printed disabled people, it's free to anyone. Audio news service for anyone who's blind, low vision, deaf, blind, or otherwise print disabled. And they offer 500 publications. And you say, what does that mean, print disabled? Well, hey, if you can't turn a page because you're shaking so bad that you have some condition like that, then it's pretty hard to read. That's print disabled. Oh. Don't necessarily have to be blind, but that's print disabled. Okay. Go in there, check it out. You can sign up for it. It's a great program. We also have child education, early childhood programs. The individual education program called IEP. Most of you know about that because if you have a child in school, there is a program. But we have other things like the Bell Academy, and we haven't done that in Nevada in a while, and what I'd like to do is get that started.
Susan, would you explain what IEP is?
It's individualized education plan, and each child that goes into the system, if they consider that they have some sort of disability, they literally look at this and try to get a plan so that the kid gets the best quality education that they can have.
Absolutely. Okay.
Now, the Bell Academy is a program that we're going to try to get going, and eventually it'll happen, we hope, and that's something to do with teaching the child to learn Braille and also how to manage with a cane. There are other things that blind children need to know, but they have it in a longer period of time, a 5-day to a 2-week program. And the STEM program, which we're going to talk more about that in the next section because we're going to have one here in Pahrump. They have a National Center for Blind Youth and Services, and that equips the teachers and parents and blind youth with the tools and knowledge they need to provide greater opportunity. They have a code called Nemeth Code, and it is an interesting code. It teaches them mathematics and scientific notations. There's the Teachers of Tomorrow, professional development programs that connect teachers with blind and low vision students to live the experience of blind people, equipping them with all sorts of knowledge and skills to be able to function. Employment, of course. Blind people need to be employed as well.
Yes.
And if they're not employed, that's sad. So we need to get them trained and go through programs that will help them overcome their blindness. It won't change, they'll always be blind, but there are ways to overcome it.
Okay.
And they've got scholarships. Oh my goodness. Scholarships, they can award up to $250,000 in cash and prizes to blind scholars across the 50 states.
Okay.
But remember, that's 50 states. So that's kind of spread very thin across the states. They have a legal program.
But it's something.
Yeah, it's something. The state has a scholarship program as well. It's not as big, of course, but they certainly can apply. And then they finally give out free what they call Slate. It's a like a tablet that you can, and it's with a stylus, and you can write in Braille on it when you learn Braille. So it's kind of a neat thing, and it's portable. They have other resources. Oh my goodness, they have publications. One of the things I learned in the publication side of it is that they had blind students, blind students and blind parents, adults, tell their story, what they've lived with, what kinds of changes they had to make. And one in particular got me thinking, oh wow, that is something. This man was a mechanic all of his life. He worked on heavy equipment, big time. And yet, when he went blind, that's it. Okay, doors closed. He went back to his boss and said, hey, look, I still have the education, I have the knowledge, I can do this. Let me work for you, please. I need the money to pay for the things that anybody needs. So the guy said, well, okay, and he put him on. And he found out that this mechanic that's blind, that he knew him before he was blind, was phenomenal. He could still do the job. Anyway, one day a guy came into the shop and said, I got to have somebody that work on my heavy equipment. I cannot find out what's wrong with it. It stalls, it does all sorts of things, and I need your best mechanic. He said, but don't put that blind one on. I don't want the blind one on. Okay, because he saw that he was blind and he didn't want him working on his equipment. So the guy said, well, okay. So he put somebody else on, and the guy came back and he said, it's still not working. I told you, I want you to get the best guy possible to work on it. And he said, I know, but you said I couldn't use the blind guy. And he said, oh, well, okay, let him do it. If he can find the problem, you've got my business. And he did. He found the problem. I mean, his ears are fine. He knew how things were supposed to feel. He knew how things were supposed to sound, and he fixed it. The guy came back and said, I want him on my equipment from now on. So
yes.
there is things out there, but we don't think about it. And immediately you think, well, if you're blind, that's it. Well, okay. A lot of people think that way, but I don't think you need to do that. I think we have teachers, we have politicians. In Oklahoma, this one politician served 2 years or 2 terms. And they just had to have a big book in Braille so she could read all of the information that had to be read in order to vote. But it works. They take care of dogs too. They have a program called Guide Dog Resources. So there's a leadership program, and we have stuff for the kids. So that's pretty much it. There's a lot in there. I just wanted you to know that, hey, go check it out, nfb.org. It's worth your time.
And so once they go to nfb.org and they open it up, what should they look for?
Well, they have tabs like any website where they have it up on top of the where it says home, and they have these things, and you just tap, click on one of them.
Click on the tab of your interest.
Of your interest. The programs and services probably should be the one you just check out just for fun. But if you have a blind child, if you're blind yourself, and you need a little help, that's what NFB does. There's a program called NVDA. It's one you can sign up for. It's free. And it will be, you can put it on your computer. It will help you open up your computer. It will help you find, you can take your mouse and move it around. It'll show you where the tabs are. It will read it to you.
Okay.
I mean, it's free. But it is something, there's lots of tabs. They have got so much going on. Be My Eyes is the one I like. You just take your little phone and click it and say, take a picture of it, and then it tells you what it is. If it's food you're buying or whatever it might be in the area, it will tell you what it is. You can have an actual person do it, a volunteer that will tell you, or you can have it just tell you. So either way, you choose how you want to use it. So.
Okay. I want to say something else, and I'm glad we have some time left on this segment, because I want to say something else about Susan. I mentioned the fact that she was a Navy veteran. Something I did not mention is the fact that this lady, and she's talked about her blindness, she's talked about some other things, but she's the person who taught Navy and Marine pilots how to fly. Think about that. She taught Navy and Marine pilots how to fly, and she helped them get their wings to become pilots. We won't go into her whole story. If you want to know more about it, I'm going to say contact Susan some way, and she's around, and she can tell you her story. For all the young ladies out there that are interested in military service, or not necessarily military service, just flying, anything in that area, Susan can talk about. And when she talks about things with Federation of the Blind, something that's of interest to anybody that may lose their sight, I think it's so important. Be sure to contact this lady. And Susan, we're going to go into the next session where we've got something else to talk about. Thank you. Come back for our next session. Welcome back for our last session. We have a lot of information here for you. We've talked about Federation of the Blind. Susan is now going to transition into something else that is so important. I hope you're writing all this down, and I hope you'll definitely listen to dates and locations of things where you can follow up on some of this. So Susan, now, what is it we're going to cover for our listening audience?
Well, we're going to cover the STEM to You program that is going to be held in Pahrump in the month of May. We don't have the date locked down yet, but we have instructors going through background checks so that we make sure that we have everything we need, and we're going to hold it at the Great Basin College. I just talked to him yesterday, and he said, yes, we could have it there. It would be on a Saturday. It's going to be starting, we're going to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and stay until 4, but we will bring lunch, and they will have a snack, so they will have the kids,
Great.
And it's free. It won't cost anybody anything.
Free?
Free, yes,
Wow.
It's free.
Okay.
No one gets paid. We're all volunteers. Oh, and the instructors must be blind. We have a criteria that if we are not blind and we try to teach our youngsters, they just don't relate to it. So this way, the instructors are blind, and they're going to be helping them build things. And there goes my voice, so that's why I had that water up there going. Hold on just a second. There we go. Anyway, that's the program. It's open to kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay.
And this year we're talking about the scientific method of doing things. Now,
Susan, before you get into that, we mentioned in the last segment about the fact that you taught pilots to fly.
yes, but I was sighted then.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you know that. I was sighted. I lost my vision about, 13 years ago. So going from that to this, they do have they do have blind students going up and flying in an airplane, but I think it might be like a car. I'm not sure how we can operate them. I mean, I've done it before, but I don't know if the blindness will prevent me from actually flying an airplane.
Okay.
I don't know that because I haven't tried, but I did teach on simulators as well as in the aircraft.
Okay.
So I want to make sure you understand that. That would be a little crazy if you thought I did that, but don't disregard anyone else who might have like a teaching experience. And then, in fact, my degree is in radiological technology, nuclear medicine. Again, I was cited when I took that. But the STEM program needs instructors who have a background in science, and I do. I was considered a scientist, so yes, it's important to have that background. And we have another one that's an engineer in our group. He was an engineer for a long time in his life, and later on in life he went blind, and he said he thought he could help us, definitely, and he's going to help us on this course. It's the way they look at it, they say explore, experiment, excel. An upcoming event for blind and low vision students. Join the NFB. This opportunity offers your child blind role models, accessible experiments, and hands-on non-visual skill instruction. The program is free, and in addition, we will provide snacks and lunch. So you ask, how do you apply? That's easy. Go to nfb.org. We talked about that. We're going to kill you with nfb.org.
nfb.org. Write that down. Don't forget.
And it's nfb.org /STEM to you. But you could go in the program services tab. I already told you about that. Look into STEM. Go to the state because every state has a program. You want to make sure you sign up for the right one. And when we actually get it, the date signed up or whatever decided on, we will put a flyer out. It'll be out to everybody we can possibly give out. We may come back and talk about it in the channel, our channel 25, but we will make sure everybody knows about it in any way that we can because we want that to be, we want people to come. So let me tell you an overview of what it's going to be about. And you have to register. One more thing, you must register. When you get in there, they say register, it's free, but just register, put your kids in there, get as much information as they've asked. Please do that or you won't get a kit. The kit is a box about yay big, and it has all the stuff they need to provide them with the course.
And this is for blind students only?
Blind students only.
Okay.
Now, they could be blind and have something else wrong, and that's okay as long as we're told about it. I mean, we have to know. And that's why we do the application. We need you to be honest with us. If they're allergic to something, any kind of foods, please let us know because we don't want to offer them something they shouldn't be eating. Yeah. And they may tell us, but it's a little late if we've already purchased the material, I mean, snacks and stuff. So please talk to us.
And what's the age and
It's kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay.
So, and hopefully we'll have less kindergartners and more of the other kids because we will adapt, but we will know about it if you register. If you don't register, we won't know what the age bracket is. Yes. So please help us out on this.
Okay.
And back to the class. So it's going to be fun. We actually did this in Baltimore, Maryland. We went and got all of this training so that we could understand it all. And I am now a coordinator for the state of Nevada. And I did the agenda. I said, I don't like the way they were doing it. I thought it was much more interesting if we start with the most difficult project first.
Yeah.
Because if you start with the most difficult project first and you teach them a concept like potential and kinetic energy, and you let them build a car that demonstrates potential and kinetic energy, then you got them in there. They're ready to go, and that's what we're going to do. But in order to do that, we have to use the scientific method. It's a crazy method that we learned a long time ago. Anyone who is involved with science and who are scientists have to use this method. You pose a question, any kind of question at all. One of the experiments, they said, well, how can we blow up a balloon without using our mouth? I mean, that's how you blow up a balloon, so how do you do this? Well, we have an experiment that we're going to ask the question, can we blow the balloon up without using our mouth? And that's the question. Then the next thing is, you have to form a hypothesis. What do you think is going to happen?
Yes.
Okay? Conduct an experiment. Do it. Find out, follow the procedure, observe the results, and draw a conclusion. Now, these are really, really important. You can use these concepts in life. I mean, sometimes we come across something and we have this obstacle and we don't know how to get around it. And we start thinking about it and we use our brain and we say, well, and in the blind community, well, okay, I know the obstacle is there, but what can I do to get around it? How can I make that obstacle not be in my way? And you could use the scientific method, asking a question, experimenting and seeing if it works. But this program, we're going to go over and over with projects, making sure you got it. You want to make sure you know how to use those concepts. And but building the car is one of them. Potential energy is energy that's just there. It has all kinds of potential of moving, but potential energy is just, it's there. When you build this car, rubber band is going to be the thing that's going to propel it. And so once you rev it up and pull it back and let it go, you got kinetic energy.
All right.
And it is a lot of fun to build this thing. Well, I don't know. Some people didn't do as well. Mine was, I literally built this car to a point where I blocked the wheels, so the wheels weren't going anywhere. So when I pulled the rubber band back, it didn't do anything. It just sort of went there and then went thud. If the wheels aren't turning, you can't go anywhere. So, even the instructors have problems with it. But believe me, it does work, and it's a lot of fun to go over that. We're going to talk about a little bit about something that we all know about, water, because water is important to us. We drink it every day. And we're going to talk about how it's made, what the molecule of water. We're going to go through those kinds of things. And then we're going to do some experiments, like the one about, can we blow a balloon up? Hey, we're going to find out. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. And another thing with scientists, and when you do experiments, most of the time they fail. It's just a given. It's what we do. But because we're in a hurry to make it work, and if it doesn't work, then what do? Well, go back and see what we did wrong and go forward and do it again. You got to be willing to do that. And whether you're a blind student or a sighted student, this is really important to understand that if you fail the first time, that's okay. You can try it and do it again. You don't let that keep you from doing anything. And finally, we're going to do something about water buoyancy. When you live in an island or you live in a place like, say, New York, where there's a lot of little patches of land around where water is a barrier, they had to figure out, the engineers had to figure out how to go ahead about getting you from point A to point B. They built a ferry, and they had all this water, and they had to design it. Well, we're going to design something simpler than that. We're going to design a raft to carry a little car so that the car does not, that it floats across instead of gets sunk. So we're going to teach you with normal stuff around the house how to go about building that, so that you're using your mind, because children need to learn use their mind.
Absolutely.
They need to do things like that.
Yes.
I think they're going to have a lot of fun. There's we have, like I said, an engineer that's blind that's in our group of instructors, and he said that he thought he could help teach a student how to build a rubber band car. He said he never did it before, but he said, I know how to build things. So he said, I can build walls and bridges, but I think we can get that done. And I think that's great that he's willing to do that, because the kids need to view that even if you're blind, you can still do stuff. And it's important that you understand that, blindness should not identify you. It's just a thing that you have to overcome to a point where you can do things a little differently. That's all.
The instructors are blind, the students are blind, and you have this class that's coming up. When is it again?
It's going to be in May of this year.
May, okay.
We have a couple of dates we're playing with, but until we make that final thing, it won't be available. But if you go check periodically at nfb.org, go to the STEM, go to the state of Nevada, it will be listed, and make sure you sign up for the one for Pahrump, because otherwise you'll be in the wrong one. But I think we're going to do Pahrump first. That's what I want to do, because I live here, and I think we need to start here. We're going to have one in Vegas, because Vegas, they have students, And we're going to have one up in the Reno area because we have chapters in those areas.
Okay.
So we're going to
With
make sure
that, and Susan has given us a lot of information. Don't forget to go to the website and find out all of this information. Don't forget to register because we don't want you left out. Now, we're running out of time very quickly, and I just want to thank Susan for being here this evening. And again, Susan, thank you. You've got to follow up, otherwise you're going to miss out on everything. Susan, anything very quickly?
Very quickly, go to the social services thing in March 28th of this month. Go there at the coalition. They're going to have a lot of stuff there, including they're going to have a representative from the Northern Nevada Center for Independent Living. And you need to go there because these people can help with blindness, they can help with deafness, they can help with all sorts of disabilities, and they're willing to answer questions. So you have them right there to talk to you, and you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss that opportunity.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for listening. We'll see you later.